Guys, what's up? It's Gen in Gaming, and we're continuing our top 10's favorite games of all times list with 6 through 4. And guys, remember, this is mostly opinion based on our experiences, so it's not probably the objectively best 10 games that we think there are, but what we think were best in our life. So, Derek, continuing us on number 6 for you.
All right, so I didn't pick between 1 and 2 because nowadays you can get them both in one game. So that's what I'm going with. It is the Kingdom Hearts series.
Okay.
Wow.
I
didn't know
loved
this.
this game so much that I got in trouble for buying the second one. I was on a school trip in New York and I had money for souvenirs and for food and stuff, and it came out, I went to a mall and I bought it. So when I brought that back as a souvenir, my mom was pissed. However, the game is just so great. I mean, who would have thought that two companies like Square Enix and Disney could come together to form something that was just so solid, so fun, and in a lot of ways, it just had so many mechanics that I hadn't even thought about in a game. It was, your action, adventure,
Kind of hack and slash.
RPG, hack and slash RPG, where you could, you could change the way your character fought. You could pick what party members were doing, who was in your party.
Right.
You could all do these little combination things. You could do summons like you would find in a Final Fantasy game, but it was all based in Disney. So you would see things you wouldn't ever think of, like, why is Goofy shield bashing somebody in the face? You know what I mean? But it was just so fun, so unique, so original, and
Exactly.
I played it forever.
So you wouldn't say that you like 1 better than 2? Because my brothers love these games. I think they both like 1 quite a bit more.
Really? That's interesting. I think 1 did a lot of things that was really good, but I liked 2.
Okay.
And one of the things I loved about 2 is I loved getting in these battles, but then you yourself could turn into they had forms, right? So there's one that was based around strength where you'd pull out 2 keyblades and start going up.
That was pretty sweet.
The other one is you'd become a mage where you'd glide around and like shoot things at people. And then they had one, then there's Master, which was meh. But the final form was cool because your character, he didn't even hold his keyblades. He would just hover like this being who was just, and he would direct things as he just destroyed his enemies in front of him. And it was just so fun to whip that out and be like, I'm going ham.
Yeah.
And I know that I'm this BA character. There's
Right.
just so much to those games. And I mean, I liked them both, but I would lean towards 2.
Okay. All right, Coulter, number 6.
So for my number 6, I will have Bioshock.
Ooh.
Oh, Bioshock. Right.
It is an interesting setting, underwater city. Definitely not something I've ever thought of people really trying to put a game in.
Yeah.
But not only was it just the setting, it was the gameplay mechanics as well, having abilities and a gun pretty much, which is like, oh, okay, this is an interesting direction they're taking.
And a lot of games built off of kind of what Bioshock has done in many, many different ways. But that's one that I do remember as well.
Yeah.
Definitely.
It scared me too much to finish.
I remember that. And I remember just being like, please, just keep going.
All right, Zach, number 6.
Super Mario 64.
So good.
Yeah, so good. And ultimately, I like it better than I had Super Mario Sunshine at number 9. I do like it better. It's more in my mind nostalgic and just, the sounds, the music of Mario 64 was just so good. And then, just thinking about the first time, getting a Nintendo 64, having the analog stick for the first time.
Oh, yeah.
And just how mind-blowing it was that if I would just push that analog stick just a little bit forward, he would creep.
Yes. Where you could like...
There was sensitivity there.
Yeah, it could tell if you were walking or running.
Yes.
Yeah, it was like mind-blowing tech back then.
Yeah, it really was. It really was.
Spoiler alert, I didn't put that on my list, but that was probably the one thing that was the hardest to do because I love that game. You can always go back and replay that game. And like you said, I remember every single level, the power-ups. I just remember it all. And when I think of like speedrunners doing games and I see them do that game, it blows my mind. You know what I mean? But that was such a good game.
Yeah.
It really was. It was cool. All right. My number 6 is Mass Effect 2. Mass Effect for me was kind of where you're going to look to the Elder Scrolls or the Fallouts for a lot of other people. BioWare was kind of like the other American RPG company, right? Bethesda's the main one, but I'm a guy who just, obviously I love RPGs, and the thing was, you made decisions, and the goal for the series was that your decisions are going to follow you, they're going to matter in the universe, they're going to form your story. You did a ton of dialogue. I remember in Mass Effect 2, there's one decision I made that I always try to be the good side in these games. And there's one decision I made that I thought was genuinely the correct, right, good decision, and I got the other side's points. And it was because it was kind of an ethics thing. It was kind of I don't know, it was just interesting. And to me, those kinds of moments were really intense. The other thing is, I think that I just really loved it, and so I really went at it everything I had. And I beat the game. I did the suicide mission perfectly in the end.
Yeah, I was going to say.
With the exception of the glitch that killed somebody, even though it wasn't my decision. It was I actually experienced that glitch. They did patch it out later. So it kept me from technically being perfect, but every decision I made was correct. And so I just love interacting with characters in that way. Deciding who's leader, learning a character, deciding who's leader. Learning a character, deciding what their strengths and weaknesses are.
Right.
So for me, it was great.
That's why I played it myself. It's not on my top 10, spoiler. But I really liked how you're getting more personal with all the characters. It's not just like, oh, he's there. Well, whatever, he's dead. Don't really care.
A lot
it's
of
not
people
like that.
might have skipped a lot of the dialogue you'd have with them. Not me. I was like, I'm talking to every person every time.
Right. And it was very story involved. I liked the story a whole lot in Mass Effect 2. And it was definitely an interesting direction.
Definitely obviously a really good game.
Oh, yeah.
So, Derek, number 5.
So interestingly enough, you saying something about you getting a character and you'd be like, oh, it's fine if they die. I cannot do that. So for me, number 5 is just the Fire Emblem games. I love just being a tactician, and everyone on your team, they have a name, they have strengths, they have weaknesses, and you have to go into a battlefield and just do it. You have a mission to accomplish, and they could get extremely difficult. But like I said, I refuse to let my characters die. If they died, I was like, nope, I'd turn the game off, I'd start over, and I'd replay it. Yeah. And I know a lot of the game is kind of pivotal around making sacrifices, but I can't do it. If one of my guys are gone, I hated it. So, and to me, I was like, I want to be the tactician that is the best for the game, and nobody dies. Not on my watch. And so I played so many of those games, and I played them all the time. That is the game for me. If it's on a handheld, that was the game I went to. Yeah. And I played them, and that was
another good RPG, in the realm of Final Fantasy Tactics, and just good all around. I love it. I think that is a great game too. I like that a lot of the characters get their own unique weapons. So characters use axes and stuff, but there's a lot of weapons that sometimes only one character can use. I thought that was really cool.
Well, and with that, one of my favorite parts about it was the dichotomy that you had between every character and who they were like paired with. You know what I mean? Like this guy, he'll only join your team if this one person talks to them, because they're the ones who will actually have a connection, and that's what will sway him from being evil. And you're like, you're right, I can turn. And it was good to get an enemy on your team, and then he just goes and he just starts laying into these people, and you're just like, feels so good.
All right, Coulter, number 6.
So
5.
5.
Yeah. Oh. So it's really 2 games, since I then couldn't differentiate between the two. It's the first Halo and Halo 3. Now, the first Halo was the story and redefining pretty much first-person shooters. But Halo 3, the multiplayer with introduction to Forge and custom games, had so much fun because of the custom games. They were like mini party games on.
That is cool.
I didn't play a whole lot of shooters. I still don't play a whole lot of shooters, but I did like Halo 3. I've never done the Halo storylines, not into that, but
the multiplayer
was bomb.
Especially SWAT. That was my favorite.
That's what we did. SWAT, but then remember the hammer game, whatever it was.
Griffball? Yeah.
That was just such chaos. It was so fun. But
it was good.
I would agree with the multiplayer, definitely.
Yeah. So, cool. Zach, 5?
Gears of War.
Oh,
Cool. I have a couple that are the same.
You guys
it'll happen.
Practically the same person? Maybe.
No, Gears of War, though, for me, it was... this list for me is kind of... Where was I when I was playing it for the first time? Gears of War probably, maybe more so than any other game on this list. Maybe not Madden 2005. But if I went back, I'd probably be like, yeah, this doesn't quite hold up to that in that season of my life.
Right.
And I played through this game. I was talking in the last video about how I don't usually play the games a ton.
Right.
Like over and over the campaigns. I must have played that campaign like 5 different times. All the difficulty levels, and then I would co-op it with people. But then I would get all of the what were they? The achievements and online and stuff. I went crazy online with that game, and it was awesome. I remember playing online until usually like 2 or 3 in the morning every school night to get up at 7 o'clock or whatever.
Right.
It was like a kind of a sleepless time, but I would play that with a friend of mine, and oh my gosh, man, it was just such a cool time.
It was a lot of fun. I have played that game. I did like it a lot. All right, number 5 for me is another one that is going to make people want to throw spears at me. Essentially, I knew that Donkey Kong for me was going to make the list, and I was originally going to go with very classic Donkey Kong 1, Donkey Kong 2,
right.
Which I love those games. I played the crap out of them, but honestly, the best Donkey Kong, the one that for me was like, this is so much fun, and I just powered through, was Donkey Kong Country Returns for the Wii.
Right.
So that is my number 5. And the reason is when I got that, I just could not stop playing it.
Right.
It was just enough like the old Donkey Kongs that I was
Right.
like, man, this is great. But it was crazy challenging, had new mechanics that didn't bog it down, like being able to actually climb, and I just, even though some of the levels were like to the point where you had to memorize them to actually win, I would just do that. I don't know. With the other Donkey Kongs, I liked them. I enjoyed them. Even Donkey Kong 64. But this one, for some reason, I was just like so insanely addicted to. I knew that honestly, and for me, this was the best Donkey Kong. So objectively, I don't think so. But
Right. Well, I think it's one of those things where it's like you have your classic, your nostalgic sort of thing. So when they brought the new one with what gaming is for you nowadays, they retained enough of that with introducing something that isn't stagnant.
yeah, that
to
made
the
it
genre,
new.
to
So
the franchise. Yeah.
yeah, so
I
it was
could
a lot of
definitely
fun.
see
So that's
It
my
did
number
look
5.
challenging, though. I remember you playing that game and just watching how crazy. And then wasn't there a mode where you had to go reverse, like?
Yeah, so if you beat it,
backwards?
you could play all the levels again reversed. I didn't do that. I did do some of that, but that's about the time where I was like, oh, I'm getting into some other new things. So I didn't ever finish that, but I did go through every special level as well,
Okay.
which were like those ones you actually had to memorize because there wasn't really enough time to react to the shallow jump, then big jump, then bouncing off something back into a shallow jump, into a cart,
Right.
So. All right, Derek, number 4.
The final one before my top 3, and this one is it's very kind of special to me, is Killzone 2. And I remember, because as far as shooters go, I was never really into things like Halo, Gears of War, all those like Call of Duty even, those like big ones that everyone loves so much. And so when I first saw Killzone 2, somebody said it feels almost sluggish at first.
Yeah.
But it adds to like the realism of it. As far as the story mode goes, I mean, when I played it, I loved it. I enjoyed it. I've gone through it on multiple difficulties. But really what stands out for me is the multiplayer, of which I got extremely good at, to where I could carry my team to victory almost alone. I've done everything you could do in the multiplayer. It's one of those things that if, I had gone for trophies, I think I probably could have platinumed it. But, I mean, I loved everything about it. The class system, everyone was unique. You could play it in a different style. And you would react based on what the teams were doing. You could just set up some turrets, defend an area, shotgun people down. Bigger maps, you could snipe, but you could go completely stealth unless you moved. And then you could see the other sniper start to shimmer a little. You could even disguise yourself as the enemy team. And what I love to do, run behind enemy lines, just stabbing, knifing people, and then as they spawned, you'd see them looking around for you, and you're just
You're just stealth though. Yeah, well, I would say out of every shooter probably out there that actually that game actually has different classes, unique classes, the most
agree.
in-depth class system
Wow.
out of any shooter.
Well,
there is.
it forces you legitimately to say, how am I going to play this next part, this next objective? What is my optimal thing for this? And so much so to the point where you can't all just pick, well, snipers. Because
Right.
you lose,
Right.
you know?
Yeah.
And so one of the things I like to do is I like to be different. And I like to throw people curveballs on these massive maps that they wouldn't expect. And I think that's why I could do a little bit better than most. Because like I said, I actually was up on leaderboards in that game. That's
Yeah.
how much time I put into it. And because of that, I mean, like, it had to have made my top 10.
Right. All right, Coulter, number 4.
So my number 4 is Battlefield 1.
Oh my gosh, this
Okay,
game's not even
Eddie.
released.
Yeah, already.
I hope
It's
this bites
based
you
off
in
of
the
the beta?
I hope this bites you in the face.
How? Okay.
Okay,
Go
I
ahead.
played the 10-hour trial. I played the earliest access, and I played it since launch, and I've been playing it for pretty much a week or a little bit over. But the moments in the game, the attention to detail is great. Like, the weather effects on the gun, you'll see the rain on the gun.
It looks amazing.
Crawling
It
through
does
the
look
mud,
good.
you'll get mud on the gun. Even when you're loading in the bullets, it'll be sometimes by hand or by clips, depending on how many bullets you fire. You fire 6, you put in a clip of, since it's 5, you'll put in a clip for 5 and then reload the one for 6. And that level of detail I really appreciate. And then sometimes it's like cinematic moments with explosions kind of going off.
Is the game actually released as of right now?
Yes,
Oh, I
it is
didn't know.
released
I thought
as
it
of
was
right
a
now.
beta.
No.
Well,
Oh,
but then
yeah.
they did a thing, though, where if you pre-ordered, you got a day early? Or
3
2
days early.
3.
Huh.
So we're past that, too,
Yes.
right? Okay.
All right, well,
Controversial, to say the least.
that might start hitting some things up there. Maybe Coulter will just be like, yeah, I said it first.
First.
Yeah.
Hey, Coulter. Well,
Zach, number 4.
Uncharted 2,
hey.
Among Thieves.
Much higher on the list.
Yes, yeah, it was hard. I mean, I've been trying to figure out which Uncharted did I like the best, and
Yeah.
2 definitely was the one that I it's kind of hard to explain, but it just seemed like there was 1 which was great, but then 2, the leap between 1 and 2 was so vast, and some of the like the most iconic moments really in video games is in Uncharted 2, like the train scene,
Yeah.
the building scene,
Yep.
like it blew my mind. I fell in love with that game so much. It was so awesome.
I think it's deserved. I do know that Uncharted, Lucas Arts or whatever was
Yeah.
making an Indiana Jones game. They saw Uncharted coming out and they canceled on the spot because it's an Indiana Jones killer. I mean, you
Yeah.
can't compete with that.
You
And
really
so-
can't. Like, if knowing what I know about the Uncharted games, how they played, and how I felt going through them, if I saw somebody else do it, even if it was solid in its own right, it would have felt like a cheap knockoff.
Probably, and
It
probably
was
genuinely.
that good to me.
So I think that makes sense that it's up there. Okay, some more crossover in our lists. At number 4, I have my Mario game. While I loved Mario 64, I have
Yes.
Mario Bros. Number 3.
Yeah.
The reason is it was one of the first games I ever played. It was an OG game, and like I said when we were talking about it earlier, I played it so much that I don't know. I just love that game, and I think that out of 2D side-scrolling platforming type things, I, in my mind, probably always compare them back to like, does this give me the Mario Bros. 3 kind of feel? You
Yeah.
know, like, am
Yeah,
I enjoying
exactly.
it like I enjoyed Mario Bros. 3? And so for me, that's why it's so high. It's just that it is the epitome of a classic for me. So. Yeah. All right, guys, that's going to finish us up for this section. We've got one more, our top 3 games. So let's get ready for that. Hit the subscribe button to join the Onion Patch today. And thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you next time.